impact of COVID-19. So it has impacted on how we do research, how we conduct education, and we're looking at ways that innovation can actually help us for digital transformation. To help us in these discussions that we will have over the next 2 hours, we have a number of distinguished speakers with us. And I'd like to introduce the speakers to us. First of all, we have Professor Bashir Galadanchi. I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir. Okay, he is a computer engineer who has a very broad experience in the ICT area in general and fields of software engineering, telecommunications, and computer science in particular. He received his BSc degree in electrical computer engineering with a first-class honors from King Abdulaziz University, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia in 1984. He thereafter obtained his MSc and PhD degrees from Boston University in Boston, Massachusetts in 1987 and 1994, respectively. He currently teaches at the Department of Software Engineering at Bayero University, Kano, as an associate professor. He is also the director of the Center for Information Technology of the university. He served as a special advisor to the governor on ICT and education, and later as a commissioner for science and technology for Kano State. He has chaired many high-level committees at the state and federal levels in Nigeria. And I had the pleasure of meeting Professor Galadinchi in his capacity as the chair of the ICT Digital Thematic Group for the Research Development Steering Committee of TED Fund. So welcome, Professor Galadanchi.
Thank you very much.
Our second speaker will be Dr. Sunday Abayomi Adeyemi. He is an associate professor of business administration with research interest in sustainable strategic management and entrepreneurship innovation, competitive and comparative strategy, as well as international entrepreneurship. He is the director, Entrepreneurship Skills Development Center at the University of Lagos. He won the hosting rights of the African Research Universities Alliance Center of Excellence for Unemployment and Skills Development to make University of Lagos become the leader and hub in Africa for research in sustainable entrepreneurship. And he is also the director of this Center of Excellence. He was also the lead researcher of the Regional Entrepreneurship Accelerated Program, REAP, an entrepreneurship program at the University of Lagos conducted in partnership with MIT in the United States. He has over 50 journal articles in revered academic journals across the world. And among his awards is the UKRI GCRF ARUA Capacity Building Grant to fund his project across the African continent titled Partnership Research and Capacity Building for Youth Unemployment Solutions in Africa. Dr. Adebisi was also the project manager of the commercial pilot of the M-ethanol clean cookstep project of Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company in Lagos. Okay. Our third speaker was to be Bosun Tijani, who is the co-founder and chief executive of the Co-Creation Hub, a Pan-African innovation enabler that works at the forefront of accelerating the application of innovation and social capacity for better society. Bosun is an innovation expert on a mission to drive the application of science and technology for enterprise and economic prosperity across Africa. He has been celebrated as the leader and initiator of the Yaba Technology Cluster. Bosun is passionate about creating and leading platforms that have provided aspiring innovators with the visibility and credibility they need to prototype, build, and scale digital innovations across Africa. And this has been acknowledged locally and globally with accolades, including the inclusion in the list of 100 most influential people on the continent by New Africa magazine. Under his leadership, CC Hub has driven the growth of social innovation and technology across Africa through support to groundbreaking initiatives and businesses, including LifeBank, Budget IT, Talilio, Drugstock, CC Hub, Growth Capital, and CC Hub Design Lab in Rwanda, and the recent acquisition of Africa's first known tech hub, iHub in Nairobi. Bosun holds a bachelor's degree in economics and a diploma in computer science from the University of Jos, a master's degree in information systems and management from Warwick University, and currently is concluding a doctoral degree program in innovation systems at the University of Leicester, UK. He is a Desmond Tutu Fellow and a Fellow of the Center for Democracy and Rule of Law at the prestigious Stanford University. Now, after saying all of that introduction for Bosun Tijani, unfortunately, he had to pull out of the conference at the very last minute due to some unforeseen business circumstances. So we have in his stead one of the senior managers in CC Hub, Francis Sani, who will be standing in or representing Bosun. He came in at very short notice also, so we'll forgive him a little bit. He works or speaks a little bit ad hoc. And our final speaker for the day, for today, would be Dr. Zarifa Mustafa, who will be representing Dr. Amina Sambo, who is the National Coordinator, Office for ICT Innovations and Entrepreneurship at NIDA. So I will just run through Dr. Sambo's credentials, although she's being represented today by Dr. Zarifa Mustafa. But Dr. Amina Sambo Magaji is as I said, the National Coordinator, Office for ICT Innovation and Entrepreneurship. In this role, she's responsible for coordinating the activities of technology innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystems through driving policy recommendations, initiatives, and programs that will create a thriving and sustainable ecosystem. Under her stewardship at the OIIE, NIDA has restructured the office to serve as an agile facilitator in the tech innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. Dr. Sambo Magaji has the has an all distinction academic record. She holds a first-class degree in computer science from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi, and a master's with distinction in information engineering with network management from the Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen. Her PhD is also from Robert Gordon University in the field of artificial intelligence, specifically on developing algorithms for optimizing distributed problems and data analytics. Her research work has been published in reputable national and international platforms with several outstanding awards. And once again, I'd like to welcome Dr. Zarifa Mustafa, who assists Dr. Sambo Magaji in that office. And I'd like to thank you for giving us your precious time to be here, and also all the other attendees who are currently in this session. So like I said, we've had three very exciting sessions. So we're looking forward to a very robust and interactive conversation about how we can use innovation and entrepreneurship to really promote digital transformation in these current climes that we now exist in as a result of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So without much ado, I'd like to call on Professor Bashir to, talk to us for about 15 minutes. All the speakers will talk, and then we'll go into a kind of a question and answer interactive session. So thank you, Prof.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's very much of a pleasure to be one of the speakers in this session. I am deeply grateful to the organizers. I must say that when I met Owen, I think it is about 2 months ago, I fell in love with his organization, Eko-Konnect. Now, it's an old man's love, not a young man's love, obviously. And that has its advantages, obviously. I felt that Eko-Konnect is exactly the type of organizations that we need today. Small organizations, very organized, very focused, that we need to be able to have this digital transformation that we're all hoping for. And this is basically what my presentation is going to focus on. When I saw the type of people that are going to participate together with me, I just said to myself, my work has become very simple. Let me give a brief introduction, especially from the point of view of universities, and then I'm sure the other panelists will give all the details. So clearly, we are in an age where information and communications technologies have become very disruptive technologies. They are profoundly changing the way we do business. And of course, they tend to replace conventional systems. They're bringing about a paradigm shift, which ushers in limitless opportunities, but of course, only for the really brave and courageous ones, those who are innovators and entrepreneurs in the real sense. And if we want to use these disruptive technologies in the best way, the best model is to adopt the triple helix model, because it has been successfully used for the rapid socio-economic development of many nations. Unfortunately, Nigeria has fared fairly badly in the implementation of this triple helix model. As you can see, what the triple helix model just says is that you need to forge a very strong relationship amongst three principal partners. The academia, I'm sorry, this slide is coming out not the way I wanted it to be. So there is academia on one part. There is, and of course, this means universities, other higher institutions, research institutes. Then there is the government on another hand, and then of course, industry, business, and so on. Some people talk about the quadruple helix model where you also involve citizens, but let's remain with this triple helix model. Now, we can see what each of the partners principally does. Government provides a conducive environment for research and academic purposes, and especially funding to the public institutions. The academia comes out with a lot of ideas and concepts and research, and industry comes in to commercialize these products and thereby to bring a lot of benefits to the citizens as a whole, business benefits. And in the end, some of these benefits go back to government as taxes and so on. Now, it's a fairly, I wouldn't say a complex system, but there are very many components of here as specified in TODEVA 2016. And really, each of these hexagons, if you want, denotes an important component. When you look at the Nigerian context, you'll see that we are not doing well in many of these components. Our universities are not entrepreneurial. We don't have strong national innovation systems and models. We don't have science parks, and so on. On the other hand, when you look at other countries, you will see that they have successfully used the triple helix model in driving their countries, in making their countries knowledge-driven economies, in bringing about very rapid socio-economic development for their countries. Whether you look at Singapore or the Malaysian government, which launched the National Innovation Agenda many years back, or the Swedish government that was able to develop the Stockholm's research cluster, or even Indonesia and Thailand, and even here in Africa, South Africa. All of these have successfully used this model to push their research agenda to the forefront and to be able to bring these three partners together. How did we get it wrong in Nigeria, where we don't have this strong triple helix model? Well, for one thing, government is not really supporting academia enough. For very long, whether as a result of this government neglect or for even other reasons, our universities and research institutes have not been producing very qualitative research. So the type or rather the number of research projects being churned out by our universities and their quality well, the story is not very good, to state it mildly. Fortunately, this is gradually changing, particularly with a lot of support coming from TED Fund. And then the academia industry linkages are largely non-existent. But we can say they are beginning to evolve. There's hardly no culture of commercializing the products of research. So that's the bad side. The good side is that innovation hubs are rapidly springing up They are very important in the triple helix model. We have quite a number of them in Lagos and in some other parts of the country. Some of them are government owned, like what NITDA is doing. Many of them are privately owned. The good thing about many of these innovation hubs is that they are being managed and run by young entrepreneurs. I remember 2 months ago when we visited Lagos, we were visibly amazed and impressed by the number of young minds or young entrepreneurs that we saw in these innovation hubs. And most of them are focusing on ICT. For good reason, ICT is the most promising area in our contemporary world. And we are also pleasantly surprised to see that some of them are being supported by banks and their fintechs and so on. Now, so what do we need to do to sort of address these problems that I have given and to push us, if you want, to the next level? One is that there's the need to have a research and development foundation, similar to what obtains in other nations, that will coordinate the entire research ecosystem, and that in particular would be able to bring these three partners together. In many countries, it is the president that chairs such a research and development foundation, just to show the importance that some countries attach to these efforts. We are lucky that TED Fund has just started to aggressively move towards the establishment of a national research and development foundation. Now, as far as the academia are concerned, our universities must radically change their curricula, and innovation and entrepreneurship must be key elements. It appears that our universities did not quite get what entrepreneurship and innovation means. In this context of let us review our curriculum so that we put more entrepreneurship studies into our curricula. I see many universities teaching their students how to do some tailoring and shoemaking and carpentry and one or two other things. And I'm sure it wasn't the intention to do that. We need innovation and entrepreneurship in the various disciplines, whether it is engineering or obviously computer science or business studies. That's where we need the actual innovation and entrepreneurship, not some skills that maybe you go after if you're unable to get jobs with your degrees. Now, in promoting these innovation and entrepreneurship pillars, it's important to establish science and technology parks in different universities. I haven't seen many of our universities doing this. Such parks should have very strong incubator programs for the mentoring and training of young entrepreneurs. I saw one or two incubator programs, such as the one in Covenant University. We need many more. And then really, you see, we keep on complaining from the academia that we don't have links with industry, they're not coming to us. The truth of the matter is that we as universities need to go out and look for these partnerships with the industry. Otherwise, they will never come to us. Now, when it comes to the government, of course, the government's major responsibility should be to provide a conducive environment for the success of the triple helix model. The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy is doing something very good, and it needs to keep on with these efforts to transform Nigeria into a digital economy and a preferred source and destination for IT-enabled businesses. People wouldn't just come to Nigeria if we do not have such a conducive environment that is very business friendly, that has good regulation and so on. And obviously, government must provide more funding to universities and other research institutes so that they appropriately transform into entrepreneurial universities. And the focus, of course, should be on ICT, the so-called disruptive technologies. As far as industry is concerned, industry needs to appreciate the importance of academia in the triple helix model. Because the basic thing is that in the triple helix model is that it is from academia that you get ideas. It is from academia that you get products of research that can be commercializable, that can bring a lot of rapid socioeconomic development for your country. So your academia are probably where you have your greatest assets, that is your human resources. Industry needs to go out and provide all possible assistance, not necessarily financial, but even including financial, so that you can be able to get the ideas and the good products and then commercialize them. So you need to establish the presence of industry, whether in the form of incubators, competitions, mentoring sessions, and so on, inside academia. And I have to say that industry does better in getting financing. If you leave the financing of such projects to universities or academia in general, you won't get any funds. But industry already has a close partnership with banks and other financial institutions. So industry should help to get these funds. And at the same time, industry should collaborate with the NRENs and similar organizations to foster strong partnership with academia. I'm not advertising for Eko-Konnect, but I would like to see the industries coming and closely working with groups like Eko-Konnect for obvious reasons, because these NRENs are closer to the research institutes. They offer so much, and so they may well be a pathway towards further collaboration with academia. So in conclusion, I want to reiterate that ICTs, by their disruptive nature, are bringing about a paradigm shift. And this is ushering in limitless opportunities. But again, I have to stress that these opportunities are only for innovators and entrepreneurs. We need to effectively use the triple helix model in order to bring about the much needed rapid socioeconomic development that we're hoping and dreaming for Nigeria. And each of these partners, the academia, the industry, and government, they must aggressively pursue their roles. Thank you again. And I'm looking forward to the types of discussions we would have at the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bashir. I think you've set the stage very nicely, and presentation was very, very, very nice. So I really appreciate that. Now, going forward, I just want to mention some of the protocols. If you have any questions for Professor Bashir or any of the other speakers, it will probably be a good idea if you can put your questions in the chat window or the Q&A window, because I'm sure this is going to stimulate, just on his presentation alone, I think there'll be cause for a number of questions. So please put your questions in the chat. We will want to have all the speakers do their presentations, and then we'll try to have more of an interactive session with the panelists. So please, you can do that while we ask the next speaker, Dr. Sunday Adebisi, to make his presentation. Thank you, Dr. Sunday.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, I'd say thank you very much for inviting, and I want to first of all congratulate Eko-Konnect. How far it is how I hope you can hear me.
Dr. Sunday, we're having a slight challenge with your audio. We can't hear you very well, and there seems to be a very strong.
Can you hear me? I'm hearing you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Right. Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. All right. I said thank you very much for inviting me, and I said I congratulate Eko-Konnect that this is the best way. I believe we need to start developing the nation Nigeria, and especially in this COVID era, we're gradually moving to post-COVID era. I say thank you very much. And I really want to thank the earlier speaker. He looks as if we prepared our academics we think alike anyway. So it looks as if we sat down together to prepare this thing we're about to talk about. So I think mine is just going to be a compliment of what he had said. When you see my slide, you see that we're thinking along the same line. I have titled mine, Rethinking University Entrepreneurial Ecosystem for Job Creation and Improve Student Preparedness for the Tomorrow World of Work. This is germane to me, given the fact that, Owen has read my profile, I have the singular duty to ensure that every African youth is gainfully employed, not necessarily by multinationals, but that they can equally create the jobs that they can get themselves employed in. So I have the duty of resolving unemployment in Africa among the teeming population of the youth. So at every point in time, I have been looking at this, and the triple helix model is what works for me. It is important for me to ensure the fact that government understand how important and how troublesome the issue of youth unemployment is in Africa. I will give you a very quick example and quick data. The youth unemployment in Nigeria is about 40 million youth. And do you know the implication of that? Canada population is 35 million. So we have unemployment that is bigger than the population of Canada in Nigeria alone. So, and that is huge. That's how important it is to all of us. And that is why we collaborate with everybody to solve this. So we should be looking at it very briefly as I speak to it, what I think we should do in the university system and what we need to rethink. As I said, rethinking university entrepreneurial ecosystem for job creation. When you look at the right-hand side of my slide, you see a young man with his bag that is walking through a path in the bush who has a goal and who his interest is to go far. And you could see that, he has his bag, probably some essential things inside the bag. And you see it, his trekkers in his leg, aspiring to go far. But you ask yourself a question. With the kind of path you see there with lot of obstruction along his way, how far can he go? How far can this young man go in this bushy arena who is very focused and is interested to go far? And yes, he has the zeal, he has the interest to go, but then, if this is the only thing he understands and if this is the only thing he knows, how far can he go in life? How can he get there? So I connect that with the fact that when you look at our university system in Africa, our curriculum are conventional. Most of the curricula are very old. They are straight jackets and very heavy in theory. And they are not in tune with the present dynamic business environment. Most of them are as old as 30, 40, 50 years. And even some of the people teaching them have taught the way Socrates and all of them, taught knowledge is still the way this needs to be taught. And some of these curricula are not originally designed for global practices that can support 21st century knowledge economy. Today we know that what is driving any viable and working economy today is knowledge, and anybody that's not migrated to that is not really going anywhere, and that is why it's very important for us to to look towards the direction. So, and I said all these features are contributed to producing youth to lead to employability skills over the years. So it's more or less producing the youth that you see working on this path that you could see in my picture, that that think that that is the best that they can achieve, and this is going to be very slow, and there's no way this kind of youth to be able to catch up with the very sophisticated youth in the today as we approach the fourth industrial revolution. So that is the characteristic of our university, which is many of our universities anyway, which support what the earlier speaker had said. So I now say, therefore, what do we need to do? There's the urgent need for us to do a rethink according to what I have put in this place. That there's the urgent need for a rethink that will lead to entrepreneurial oriented university, which I call the EOUs in Africa, entrepreneurial oriented university in Africa. And that is why I said I looked as if the earlier speaker that we were, we sat down together to build this. And this is what I've coined out myself over the years that I've been doing this research. And okay, we need to have our universities now to become EOUs. We call them entrepreneurial oriented university. And what does this entail? It entails the following attribute that I put inside this place, that is, it involves university that is ready, number one, to create a culture of supporting the youth, to believe in themselves, to convert societal challenges to wealth creation. This is very, very important. The time of, okay, there is the share, the mobile, the total, they are looking for who to employ, and they can employ as many people as possible, is gone. So the first thing when we bring students into university system is to support them to have this culture of believing in themselves, that there are societal challenges and they can create this into wealth. Secondly, EOU aids at this entrepreneurial-oriented university will involve mentorship program, pitching competition, internship, volunteering, community engagement, and teamwork. And it equally involved, developing a hub for enterprise creation that is in tandem with all the anticipated characteristics to help youth function seamlessly in the fourth industrial revolution. These are very, very important today to be instilled into the curricula of all disciplines in all Nigerian university. It will equally engage, forward integration strategy through industry collaboration to synergize for employability skill of the future of their students, where we have the immersion program, where we begin to integrate very perfectly with the industry, just like my earlier speaker talked about, the triple helix model, where, the government is involved, the private sector is involved, the university is involved. We're linking the tripartite knowledge together and activities together for us to build resilient youth, that we understand what it is to leverage entrepreneurship for job creation. And EOU, the Entrepreneurial Oriented University, too, we have to address societal challenges through research and make such available for value creation opportunity. That is where we'll be able to connect the university itself, will be able to connect with the reality of the problems in the society and provide solutions to them. Again, it will assist, university to help to drive innovation and technology transfer. That is what China, that is what, Indian have leveraged on so strongly today. And we're yet to even have the opportunity of this in our nation. Again, just like it will encourage the triple helix model, university, private partnership, and government to create sustainable value. The value that will create job, the value that will make everybody to be able to say, okay, I have identified this problem, I can solve it. I can partner with the government to solve this problem. I can partner with the industry to solve this problem for the benefit of the society. Our faculty members too need to be trained to discover the minutest enterprise opportunity in their discipline. And that takes me back to the earlier speaker. Just like I told you, that it's as if we built this together. You see, the faculty in University of Lagos, let me state it very, very clearly. One of my achievements with the support of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, who has strongly supported the drive of the Entrepreneurship Center and the Center of Excellence for Unemployment and Skill Development in the university, is for me to convert all courses in University of Lagos to entrepreneurship. As I speak to you today, in the mindset of my colleagues and the students, I've told them any course that you're reading and does not have entrepreneurship component in University of Lagos, it's not going to lead, will not survive. So I coin it as, okay, if you're reading medicine, I call it medicinepreneur. If you're reading music, I call it musicpreneur. If you're doing engineering, I call it enginepreneur. If you're doing education, I call it edupreneur. And I kept on telling them, pitching it, that look for the enterprise and commercial component of all your discipline and leverage them to create wealth. Do not wait for anybody to do what? To employ you. Do not wait for anybody to employ you. But all you need to do is to ensure that you leverage this opportunity. So we need to continuously train our faculty members for them to understand this so that they can support the students in that regard. And it is then you could see the earlier picture where you have the young man, walking through the boot path. You could see a four-wheel drive here now. Even in this rugged environment, it will go far. It's rugged, it will go far, it will go with speed, it can deliver, and it can weather all storm, weather rain, weather sun, it can deliver that. And when you think that is what the African youth today needs, and that is how we need to reflect on how to navigate forward. So, and what will be the outcome of these EOUs, entrepreneurship on oriented university? Number one, teacher becomes aware of the innovation in their discipline that have enterprise and economic value outside theories. Teachers themselves will no longer, depend and live on government salary before they can do anything. Teachers can support quality training of their students to achieve high employability skills, and they become good mentors that the student can follow through. And this, in turn, we are based to do with competitive advantage opportunity in the global economy. We're going to have students that will have capability to create, that can break that, that can create a whole lot of things. And students become well grounded in soft skills too: communication skill, adaptability, leadership skill, high city knowledge, and entrepreneurship skill. That is what EOU will deliver. And it is one of the things I've been pushing across Africa and pushing in the nation, in the nation Nigeria. We don't need to start and the federal government does not need to go and create another entrepreneurship university. No, let's make every existing university an entrepreneurship oriented university where the component of every discipline is diluted with entrepreneurship component, so that everybody can understand that there is no discipline that is not compatible to profitable business venture. And lastly, there you see that students will become job creators rather than job seekers. And this is very important in Africa. This is so important to me. I want to build students that as they are living with their jobs, not necessarily. That is why we're building a whole lot of incubation ops in University of Lagos, and we're trying to do that across Africa to support Youth of Africa through some of our programs to ensure the fact that these undergraduates can get out from the university with their registered businesses, and then it makes them better, and they're not going to go outside there looking for a job, but they will go outside there doing the job that they have actually created. The youth future, therefore, will be secured because all relevant skills that will promote adaptability to change in the future world of work have been enabled through the EOU's platform. So once you have an entrepreneurship-oriented university, it will make the student to
Hello, Dr. Debisi. Can the rest of the panelists hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure. So something has happened to Dr. Debisi's connection. Let's give him about 20 seconds and see if he comes back Fortunately, it seemed like he was approaching the end of his presentation. He was about rounding up. Yes, we've lost him. I'm sure he'll come back in. But it would appear he was rounding up, and a whole thrust of his presentation, there was some synergy with what Professor Bashir had talked about in his presentation. And then he went on to discuss this EOU kind of methodology or approach that he's taken for courses within the University of Lagos and within the Entrepreneurship Center. So I'm sure that might stimulate some questions when he gets back. So we'll move on, and I'll ask Dr. Zarifa Mustafa to make her presentation. And Zarifa is an officer of the OIIE for NIDA. So Dr. Zarifa, if you'd like to make your presentation, please.
Hello, I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen before I start the presentation. Thank you. And thank you for having us, Eko-Konnect.
Hello, so sorry. I think I'm back now. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Sunday.
So sorry.
So,
sorry.
Yeah. Yes, we knew you were kind of rounding up, and
Yeah.
we'd actually asked Dr. Zarifa Mustafa, who was about to start her presentation, right? But obviously, during the Q&A session, there might be an opportunity for you to just
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So sorry, it was a network challenge. Yeah.
That's okay. So we're waiting on Dr. Zarifa.
Sorry, I'm having a bit of network challenge as well, but I'm just trying to touch the screen sharing. So give me just about a few seconds. Hopefully it will now.
Okay, Dr. Zarifa, we can see your slides, but I think you're still on mute. You want to unmute your mic?
Yes. All right. Good afternoon once again, everyone, and thank you to the organizers for inviting us to this event. So I know that the other presenters did more of an all-rounded presentation on where we are and where we need to be. For me, what I'm going to do is my presentation is going to focus on what OIIE, that is the Office for ICT Innovation and Entrepreneurship, does, and hopefully maybe during the Q&A we can see areas of collaboration and synergy between the government and the private sector, or government, private sector, and academia. So this is just the the content of my presentation. We're going to start with the background. So we all know that the president of the country is trying to see how we can diversify our economy diversify our economy from relying so much on petroleum. And one of the key areas that we feel is one of the key areas for socio-economic development in Nigeria is entrepreneurship, innovation and entrepreneurship. And OIIE OIIE was established as a subsidiary of NITA to foster the growth of the technology innovation ecosystem in Nigeria. And we believe that that will result in job creation because Nigeria, as you are all aware, has a largely youthful population. And by creating jobs, we know that automatically it will contribute to our GDP also, and innovation and entrepreneurship, if in the right environment, also increases the foreign direct investment to the country. So how OIIE does this, that is creating an enabling environment for innovation, technology, innovation and entrepreneurship, is through initiatives, partnerships, programs, that will catalyze the growth of that ecosystem in Nigeria. And we have different units under OIE. We have the innovation ecosystem, which focuses mainly on innovation. So all the innovations that we come across, be it the innovators or the startups come to us directly, or we hear about them and we contact them. The policies, the programs that have to do with innovation are under this unit. We have the entrepreneurship. It's about platforms or programs and entrepreneurship, because if we have the startups who have innovative ideas, then how do we ensure that they are also entrepreneurs? Because we just can't have innovation without entrepreneurship. They go hand in hand if we want that ecosystem to grow. And we have inclusive development. This unit is in charge of ensuring that everyone is carried along. We don't want to, we want to ensure that people from all sectors of the economy, all sectors of the country, all parts of the country, all genders are carried along in our programs and our policies. And commercialization. This is also very important, not only for the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, but even in our academia, because we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of research. Then how do we commercialize those research? How do we ensure that the research, the outcome of our research are not just gathering dust in our academic institutions? So this unit is in charge of commercialization, as well as intellectual property protection, because that is also key in the development of the ecosystem. And then partnerships. So partnerships, government cannot do everything alone. We need partners from the academia, we need partners from the ecosystem, from the private sector, and then also from the ecosystem, that is the technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship ecosystem as well. So this department is in charge, or this unit rather, is in charge of the partnership aspect. And some of our programs we have like Stakeholders Connect. So Stakeholders Connect is a meeting of stakeholders to discuss issues, issues of the ecosystem. So one of the, for example, recently we had a stakeholder workshop on a policy that was drafted by the ministry through RENITA, that's the policy on digital innovation and entrepreneurship. So this is one of our programs. So if we have like policies or we have issues that we feel based on our interaction with the ecosystem that we feel that needs to be discussed with further with a wider audience, then we engage the stakeholders of the ecosystem. We have programs like Startup Friday. These are just pitching events where we invite startups to come and pitch their ideas to investors, mentors, and others. And we have a Future Hack, which is a hackathon that we partner with universities to host. And the hackathon focus on different areas depending on the needs of the society or the community at any point in time. We focus our hackathons on those. For example, last year or early this year, yes, last year we had hackathons on inclusion, digital inclusion. We also had a hackathon on cybersecurity, and in previous years we had hackathons on ed tech, agri-tech, and health tech. And we have another program, which is the Startup Clinic, which the Startup Clinic is more of a mentoring program. So startups who have gone through the Startup Friday are now taken further where they have one-on-one interactions with mentors. And the program usually lasts about 5 days or so. And last year, due to COVID-19, 2 of our startup clinics were online, and they were quite successful as we didn't allow COVID to interrupt our programs. And then we have the Summer Kids Codes Camp. This is focused on secondary school children, and just to engage them well during summer holidays, to engage them during summer holidays and see if they have interest in coding. For now, we've had two editions, both in Abuja, but this year we're looking at other parts of the country to see how we can engage more children instead of just focusing in Abuja. And we have GITEX, which is an annual technology show where Nigeria usually sponsors startups, about between 6 to 10 startups, to exhibit their products and for them to have opportunities for partnerships and also international exposure. And this year, for the first time, NIDA sponsored 5 startups to attend the technology, to attend the CES. That's so 5 startups attended this year's CES, which took place last week, and we hope that this will be a continuous sponsorship so that Nigeria is represented. And of all, there were about 1,600 plus exhibitors, and out of those, only 7 were from Africa, 5 from Nigeria, those that were sponsored by NIDA, and 2 from South Africa. Right. So based on our engagement, we have engaged with over 200 startups, and if you look at the map here, shows the percentage of the number engaged by zone. Now we have over 200 startups that have benefited from our programs and initiatives. And in order to make our programs better. We engage, we get, after every program, from the startups, and what we have identified is a lot of them do not have any IP. So when we're talking about commercialization, it's something that the startups need to be aware of. That is part of our engagement with them, to ensure that they understand the best way to protect their intellectual properties. About 83% of them have ideas and prototypes. Quite a lot of them, over 80%, have raised at least $10,000 in funding, and very few of them are female, 10%, which is quite low. So we're trying to see how we can get more females to be interested. And out of our feedback, the top 3 is the professionalism of our programs, the networking opportunities provided to them, and then the quality of the content. And another feedback that they mentioned is the mentoring aspect of our programs, which they feel is really, really important. And that was the reason why we increased the number of days. It used to be about 2-3 days to 5 days. And based on their feedback also, this is just what the startups expect, what the most important thing to their enterprise based on. So this is based on percentage. And if you look at the graph, it says most of them really want access to market. They want support, access to infrastructure, access to government, mentorship, and then lastly, tax holiday. And so based on this based on the feedbacks, we try to ensure that our programs capture the aspects that are important to them, and also when drafting policies, we also take into consideration the feedback from the startups that we have engaged. And this is just so based out of those 200, they have created about 700 employment opportunities. And so as part of our other activities, I mentioned the Stakeholders Connect, one of which resulted in the Nigerian ICT Innovation and Entrepreneurship Vision, which is a policy recommendations that had 3 focus areas. There's digital infrastructure, education, research and development, and then support for the ecosystem. And then recently our stakeholder engagement was on the National Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship, sorry, I keep missing the National Digital Innovation and Entrepreneurship Policy. And this policy was presented by the Honorable Minister in November, around, I believe, 19th November. And we had a wider stakeholder engagement on the following week. And that stakeholder engagement, the policy was also presented, and there were different groups that worked on the different parts of the policy. And the policy had 5 key areas. There's human capital, there's demand, there's access to capital, there's, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that I get all the parts of the policy right.
That's fine.
Yes. I'm sorry, that's my. Anyway, maybe what during the chat I'll just post the different focus areas of the policy. Right.
Okay.
And then, like I mentioned, the Summer Kids Codes Camp, we had one in 2017 and another in 2018, and quite a number of children attended. And another scheme that is going to start this year is called the Technology Entrepreneurship and Technology Innovation and Entrepreneurship Support Scheme. So this scheme is focused on, it has three different tracks. There's the hub track. The hub track has hub upskilling. So all the hubs who apply for this scheme, who are in need of skilling, can apply under the scheme. There's the then for the startup track, we have startup voucher, so workspace voucher for startups. It can be virtual or physical. We have the incubation. We have we have incubation and workspace. That's for the two, and then we have another one called technical capacity building. Is on this is open to all individuals. It's not only for the startups or for the hubs, but every Nigerian is eligible to apply for this. And so we have quite a bit of social media engagement, and we've been having seminars just to engage people based on our feedback from the startups. So we've had quite a few of these social media engagements. And we also have the innovation portal where you can, if you're a startup, a hub, or even an investor, you can register on that. As you can see, we have over 290 startups that have registered so far, and hubs. 56 events, and over 277 capacity built using the portal. And also during the COVID-19, we had a collaborative effort. During the first wave of the COVID-19, there were a lot of uncertainties, and a lot of businesses went down. And what the agency tried to do is to come up with ways to alleviate or to cushion the effect of the COVID on the technology ecosystem. And they set up, the agency set, based on the directive of the minister, set up 10-man committee who gave a report, and we called that committee the Tech for COVID committee, and they gave recommendations on how to cushion the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic on the ecosystem. And we also had an innovation challenge where the top 3 innovators are being implemented, and the innovators had one developed a ventilator, another one a smart chamber for disinfection, and then the third one is a health app where you can have consultations with doctors. And finally, some of our startups had good outings at GITEX. Like Chiniki won the best AI startup in 2019, and the others were all runner-ups in the GITEX Future Stars Supernova Challenge. and also other partnerships we have with government or the hubs. These are some of the hubs that we've worked with. And then on international collaborations, these are some of the multinationals we've worked with. And then the academia where we've partnered, and academic institutions, sorry, where we've partnered. And these are our contact information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zarifa Mustafa. There was a lot of information there. And also what immediately occurred to me was that there seems to be a lot of activity on partnership opportunities. And I think it would be something we'd want to have a better understanding of. I think one of the questions in the Q&A session actually alludes to that. So we'll probably bring that up during the question and answer session. But I'm conscious that our time, we're not doing so well on time. So I'd like to ask Francis Sani to come and give his presentation. So thank you, Dr. Mustafa, for your presentation. And just be on standby. I'm sure there'll be questions that will be directed towards you. So I'd like to introduce
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Francis Sani, who will be speaking on behalf of the CEO of CC Hub. And I'm excited we've heard from academia and government. So really looking forward to hearing what an actual incubator's perspective on this is. So Francis, please go ahead. You've got 15 minutes.
All right, thanks a lot, Owen. Owen, just to confirm, can you hear me loud and clear?
Can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Just gonna share my screen. It's been a really exciting conversation. Again, thank you, big thank you to all the speakers that have spoken so far. It's been really great to be able to learn about the different perspectives and also hear about all of the great work that's been done all the way in Bayero, investing in Kano, and also in Unilag in Lagos, and also from OEIE. In one way or the other, we've interacted with all institutions. I think in 2018 and 2019, we held several events at the Bayero University in Kano. We've also had quite a number of students actually from the university be a part of some of our programs. And obviously, Unilag also produces some of the best technology entrepreneurs on the continent as well. So we've interacted a lot with the university as well in different capacities. And we've also interacted with NIDA and OEIE on different occasions. So it's been really great to see all of those different perspectives. And I think you guys have I think the panelists have shared all of the information. So I'm going to try to just round off and just bring a different perspective from both an entrepreneurship standpoint, but also as an innovation intermediary, the role that we think innovation intermediaries can play in supporting the growth of entrepreneurship and innovation on the country, right? Just to share my screen. Oh, okay. No, that was sharing the document instead of sharing the screen. Presentation. All right. Quick intro. My name is Francis Sani. I currently manage accelerator programs at CC Hub across the continent, and I also lead a startup support team, which is a team that supports our work to support the growth of entrepreneurship and growth of entrepreneurs across the continent. CC Hub was founded in 2010, so we celebrated our 10-year anniversary in September last year. We'll be 11 years in September this year. And we're currently located physically in 3 countries. We started off in Nigeria, and for the most part of the last decade, we were in Nigeria. And then in 2019, we opened our first office outside of Nigeria in Rwanda by setting up the first design lab on the continent, which is essentially our research and development center, where we have over 20 plus scientists, engineers, researchers working on developing next generation solutions. We also in 2019, in September 2019, we also acquired the very first innovation center on the continent, and the iHub. iHub was the very first innovation center. This is the well-known one to start up in 2010, and they were more or less the shining lights for the growth of innovation hubs across the continent. And to more or less complement our approach and our organization as a Pan-African organization, where we made the acquisition in September of 2019, and we're currently operating in those 3 countries, and potentially will continue to grow across the continent over the next couple of years. We currently operate in about 5 or 6 offices, but with the pandemic, some of our team works from home. So just to give you an overview of what CCRB is and the work that we do, before I go into the numbers, perhaps let me, so you don't see too much information and not pick what I'm saying. So before I go into the numbers, let me just describe what CCRB is. So CCRB is the largest innovation center on the continent. And what we do primarily is to support stakeholders to be able to increase the use of technology to solve problems on the continent. Technology perhaps has the most potential to be able to fast track and accelerate the economies of a lot of countries on the continent who missed out on the Industrial Revolution and have missed out on all previous economic phases, right? Technology presents a borderless opportunity, a lower barrier for everybody to be able to take part of this revolution. And our work at CCRB is essentially to be able to build a platform that allows stakeholders, so that's entrepreneurs, academics, the government agencies, multinationals, local corporates, anyone really who's trying to build solutions around technology and who's trying to use technology to make a change. We provide a platform in different ways to be able to support them to be able to make this change happen. And we do this in different ways. We have a startup support team, which is my team, that is focused on supporting entrepreneurs through different programs, working with both local and international partners across the continent. We also have to do a lot of work in education, which is also tied to one of the conversations today. And our education team has been operating for the past 8 to 10 years across the continent. And they're really focused on asking the question of how do we get a lot more students, especially in the early stages from primary school to secondary school, to start getting familiar with STEM, right? Not just from a theoretical approach, but also from a practical approach, right? How do we increase, especially female participation in STEM and just general capacity of students on the continent to be able to improve their capacity in science and technology. And we also have a practice that is also focused on governance and digital security. We have our design lab that's focused on R&D. We have our public health team that is doing a lot of great work in supporting agencies across the continent to be able to battle even the COVID-19 pandemic, but just generally thinking about how do we create a more organized public health system that can increase the quality of healthcare accessible to Nigerians and Africans, right? And this is to give you an overview of, from a entrepreneurship standpoint, with regards to supporting startups. What does this work look like from practical terms? In the past 10 years, we supported over 650 companies across the continent through direct programs. And these are companies that we've worked with in most cases on a one-on-one basis in small cohorts of 5 to 10 to 15 entrepreneurs, supporting them to go across all stages. So we've worked with companies who just came in and they had ideas, and they had the idea. We had to support them to building their prototypes, to getting customers, to setting up their business structure, and in some cases, then getting them to the point where they can then raise hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars to be able to scale that solution across the continent, right? So we've worked with 650 of these kind of companies over the past 10 years. And we've actually invested over $2.35 million in these companies as well. This number says $2 million here, but it's actually 2.35 as the last count. And this is different channels. And these companies have then gone on to raise and attract over $79 million in external funding. But the really important thing that we look at is when you look at job creation, and that speaks to the impact that innovation and entrepreneurship can have on the economy when it is scaled and when it is supported by all stakeholders. These companies, this small number of companies that I've mentioned, have been able to create over 7,300 direct jobs. So these are people, employees who are more or less basing their livelihoods on the existence of these companies. And in the process, they've also been able to create over 35,000 indirect jobs as well, right? However, our work has impacted over 20 million people across the continent, right? So this shows you the amount of change and the amount of impact that is possible if we're able to create environments and platforms that can support more entrepreneurs, more innovators, more young people across Nigeria, across the continent, to be able to create solutions to the many, many problems that we face, right? And like I mentioned, just to also give people on the call some examples of some of these companies. And one company I would like to highlight is a company called Lifebank, which is quite popular, and some of you might know it. And what Lifebank does is, again, when the founder came into CCO, I think in 2015 or 2016, she had just had an idea. She had just given birth, and she had complications during her birth. And she realized, because she gave birth outside of the country, she realized that if she was in Nigeria and she had those same complications, there was a high likelihood that she would have passed away from that process. And then she came back to Nigeria. She saw so many women not having access to simple things like blood that they need when they're in the process of giving birth. And she saw that it wasn't just a problem that was faced during the process of giving birth, but just generally. Back then, if you wanted to get blood in Lagos, the way the hospitals had to do it, if they didn't have that blood in their blood banks, is they would manually call, say, 40 blood banks to ask them for the specific type of blood that is required, right? And in most cases, if the blood bank doesn't have that, they have to ask all 40. And when they eventually find, and then spends hours before that blood can even be transported to the hospital. And in most cases, like you know, especially in cases of emergency, people's lives are at stake, right? So with simple technology, the founder was able to build a simple system where they organized the inventory of blood banks across the city, and they then created a logistic system that allowed them to be able to deliver blood anywhere within 30 minutes, which was totally unheard of before. And since then, the company has gone on to save over 10,000 lives directly, right? So there are 10,000 people now who are living because this company was able to build technology. And it is, again, sadly, the possibility is some of those people might have lost their lives if this entrepreneur was not given the environment to be able to create this solution, right? So we have people like Tani of Lifebank, we have people of like Shewoning Mide of Budgets, we have people like Demeji of Adverse, and many, many, many more across the country, both within CCO portfolio and even in the larger ecosystem, who are building solutions that are critical to the sectors and to the functioning of the economy, right? And the way to also see this is to just give you a sense. Let's look at the funding activity, because not just so we don't just say tech, and tech is say the hype thing or the buzzword now. Let's look at from a FDI standpoint, from a foreign direct investment standpoint, and from a direct impact on the economy. What impact is technology ecosystem and is innovation and entrepreneurship having on the continent, right, or on the country? In 2019, and just to give you guys a background of this number, in 2015, the amount of money that came into the continent to technology startups was less than $200 million, right? And in just 5 years, that number has risen to consistently going over $1 billion every year. And the interesting thing is, while the amount of funding that came in 2019 was 1.34 billion, in 2020, despite the pandemic and despite the impact that the pandemic had on economic activities across the continent, African startups still attracted over $2.4 billion in funding, with Nigerian startups leading the way in that category. So it shows us that we have, and this is just a little, just like I say, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Imagine if we could unveil the entire iceberg. Imagine if we could create Dr. Sunday said, and also like the professor also said as well, how about we find ways while these young people are still in universities, we create ways for them to be able to actually start getting involved either in the creation of businesses or even working in companies themselves. And for instance, I was looking at something on LinkedIn the other day, and I found out that when you look at students in some of the few private universities that do this really well, like Babcock and like Covenant, you see that they are students. By the time the students are leaving school, you see that the student has experience with Goldman Sachs, the student has experience with one top startup in the country, student has experience with KPMG. And by the time they are getting into either the career market or through the entrepreneurship field, they are prepared to be able to innovate. They are prepared to be able to create value, right? So my point here is that if we can activate a lot more of this economic potential within young people in the academia, within young people who are outside the academia, who are running small businesses. If we can activate the support that they need to be able to build more, to build better businesses, the support that they need to be able to attract the resources, financial and otherwise, that they need to grow their business, we can easily catapult this number from 2.4 billion to 24 billion in a couple of years, if not 240 billion in a couple of years, right? And then to just take it back and make it perhaps relevant to the people who are on the call today, in our past 10 years, and based off supporting many startups that have gone on to fail and also many startups that have gone on to succeed, we have seen that there are some key areas in which if startups are strong in these areas, the likelihood of success down the line is going to be a lot more, right? And these are the 4 key areas I'd like to share with you today. The first is products. How do you support innovators to be able to build products that create value? Because at the core of every business is the product or the service that they are offering, right? But in a lot of cases, you would agree with me that entrepreneurs either don't have access to the information or the industry knowledge or the capital or whatever other resources that they need to be able to create products that are not only relevant to the local market, but that can be relevant, especially now that we have AFTA, to not just the local market, but to Africa and potentially to the world, right? So this is one of the key areas that at CCO that we focus on is supporting entrepreneurs. How do we then support, how do we create the environment that enables them to create great products, right? And then the second pillar is then called talent. And talent is really important because without the people that would build these businesses out, right, you're not going to get solid businesses, right? As they say in the entrepreneurship world, we say that the team is the most important thing that matters, because when the going gets tough, it's the team and the founders that will be able to face those challenges and build something amazing, right? So how do we create an environment for people to be able to attract the best talents and retain the best talents within their teams as they are building great products? Those are the questions that we help entrepreneurs to solve during our programs. After you've built a great product and you have a great team that's executing on the development of these products, a product without customers is a product that doesn't exist, right? So how do we then support teams with regards to distribution? How do you help an entrepreneur, or you as an entrepreneur, how do you think about distribution with regards to getting access to your customers? The interesting thing is, while I'm saying that these are the 4 areas that we support entrepreneurs in, entrepreneurs who are in the conversation today can actually think about building and strengthening their business in these 4 key areas, because you know that if you figure out your product or service and you're building a world-class product and you also have a great team to support that product, and then you also have clarity on your distribution channel, you have a business that's successful. And then the last thing is funding. And funding is critical, but when we say funding, we're not just saying equity funding with regards to raising money from investors. To be honest, while financing is still a major issue today in the ecosystem and in Nigeria, there's a lot more, there's a lot of improvements and progress that has happened relative to 5 years ago. Now there are a lot of companies that offer things like SME loans. Even the banks have a lot more offerings when it comes to providing loans and funding to SMEs. You have a lot more early stage investors who are writing equity-based checks to entrepreneurs. You have the institutional investors who are also coming in. So there are a wide range of financing options that you just need to be able to make sure that you have figured out these other 3 areas. Your business is solid, such that when you approach someone to finance your business in whatever way, they are able to then listen to you, right? And before I go to education, I don't want education to, I'll come back to this slide. So to more or less put a summary to my conversation so far, there's a lot of potential when it comes to the impact that innovation and entrepreneurship can have on accelerating the growth of any economy, right? According to research, the global competitiveness of an economy is determined by the science and technology strength of that economy, and that ties a lot to innovation. So I think the question that we then need to ask is that, are we doing enough as an ecosystem to be able to support and create platforms that can facilitate this growth? In what ways can the academia better be linked with the industry? In what ways can we make sure that even students all the way to primary school and all the way to secondary schools when the talent is still in the pipeline? In what ways can we start preparing them for the current reality? Because we all know that our current curriculum, the way it's designed, is not preparing them for that reality. And again, it might be a long shot to change that curriculum, but in what ways can we augment the curriculum today? In what ways can we augment the activities or the exposure that they have? In what ways can we augment the kind of knowledge resources that they have access to, such that they are better prepared for the future that awaits them? Put up this slide to just be able to show some examples of companies that CCF was supported, but also within the general ecosystem that is supporting the growth of education on the continent today. You have a company like Edvis, who is digitizing the way schools are run from an administrative standpoint, so that teachers and principals and the school staff focus more on the learning outcomes for the entrepreneurs. You have Student, who supports early graduates and also students to be able to get internships before they graduate. And even after they graduated, they provide them with the skills that they need to be able to get ready for work. You have Helix, who just raised $7.5 million today, who is trying to digitize and make access to courses and education more accessible to everyone at the go. So with a mobile app, a child anywhere can get access to some of the best educational resources on the continent. And you have hundreds more of these kind of companies within education across different sectors that are making different efforts to be able to grow innovation on the continent, right? So it should be interesting to hear more and to facilitate the ways that different ecosystem providers can work together. In our own part, CCF has been a leader in facilitating ecosystem development over the last couple of years. In 2013, the CCF team, Boson, alongside May One and also I've forgotten the name of the other company, they approached the Lagos state government to be able to set up fiber optic cables in Yaba. At that point, before that point, there was no long range access to fiber optic cables in Yaba. And then they got the government to be able to waive a $2 million right of way tax for Main One. And with that money out of the way, Main One was able to make Yaba the very first place that was covered by fiber optic cable in Lagos. And that spurred the growth of the technology ecosystem that we have today, right? That single activity was one of the key things that made a lot more companies be able to come to Yaba. You have the Andelas, the Jumias, the Kongas, and all the other big companies today whose activities started within that ecosystem because the enabling environment was created, right? And there are many other ways in which we supported and we continuously support the growth of the ecosystem. We need to do more, however, because the world is not waiting for us. The rate of innovation, the rate of transformation in different countries of us, not just to catch up, but for us to create our own identity and for us to differentiate ourselves and create something that is unique to our local context that can be used by consumers in our local context and that can then be exported, not just within Africa, but across the world, right? I look forward to learning more from other panelists and also answering questions and interacting in the conversation to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis. That was quite an expansive presentation about some of the achievements of CC Hub and some of the impact that their work has had. So it was quite pleasing to see that. To the question and answer session, and I can see that already there have been a number of questions placed in the Q&A chat window. But I think just to make this a little bit more interactive, I can see there's a question from Dr. Barry. And Dr. Barry, if you wouldn't mind, I'd allow you to just even sort of pose your question audibly to the panelists.
Thank you very much, Owen. In his submission, Dr. Bashir mentioned
Dr. Bubakar, if you just don't mind. Yes, we can hear you. If you could just introduce yourself before you ask the question.
Okay, no problem. I am Bubakar Bare. I am the CEO of WACREN, which is the West and Central African Research and Education Network. Thank you to all the panelists. Very interesting submissions and presentations. So in his presentation, Dr. Bashir talked about the role NRENs could have in linking industry with academia, etc. So I was just asking him if he could maybe elaborate more about this. How could organizations like Eko-Konnect or other NRENs facilitate these linkages, maybe between industry, academia, and even government, especially funding agency? Thank you very much.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, I don't know if you want to tackle that question. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you for that question. And clearly, NRENs can do a lot. But let us first understand what NRENs do in general and what perhaps qualifies them to do even more. NRENs, the main thing is that final N, the networking. NRENs are supposed to assist all the different partners in that networking exercise. And clearly, networking is probably the most important activity that all the partners need to be involved in. In our world, whatever it is, whether it is socially with your family members or educationally, and more important, within the business world, the network that you are able to build and interact with is probably going to be one of your most important assets. And NRENs can be able to do that. Why would NRENs be able to do that? Because they probably have more contacts with and a greater understanding of the entire ecosystem than individual members have, whether they are universities or industry and so on. So everything that you need, if you're an entrepreneur, you can probably get access to it by joining in to the activities of an NREN. And this activity that we're having today is just one example of avenues through which NRENs can assist us. You can imagine the volume of knowledge and even skills that we have acquired just from listening to Dr. Zarifa and Francis and Professor Adebisi. We've gained so much, and you can imagine how many other activities they have. And these are public activities. And then in themselves, I would imagine if you contact Eko-Konnect, they could link you to funding sources. They may not be able to give you the funds themselves, but I don't know whether Owen has a lot of funds stacked in his bank account or so. But even if they don't have that, I'm sure they can link you up to potential investors. They can even train you on what you need if you are going out looking for funding. And in the same way, whatever resources you require, you can probably be able to get them through an NREN. NREN can be a sort of one-stop shop which virtually links all these various partners together and has a lot of information that it can share with entrepreneurs, innovators, research institutes, academia, and industries themselves, financial organizations, and government itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bashir. Yeah, like you said, Dr. Barry is actually the CEO of the Regional Research and Education Network for West Africa. So he kind of oversees the operations of the various NRENs within the country. So I kind of understand why he asked that question. But clearly, there is an opportunity when you describe the triple helix model of academia, industry, and academia, industry, and what's the third? On governments. You know that there's a role for the NRENs to play in that whole space as well, in terms of being able to cooperate with the various bodies in that whole innovation ecosystem. And hopefully I'll we'll deal with the other questions, and I'd like to come back to Dr. Zarifa with one or two questions in that regard. But there were a number of other questions that were put in the Q&A, I think by Omar Owaya. So I'll probably just let you speak, Omar, and speak to your comments and questions that you had for the panelists.
Thank you, Owen, and thank you, panelists, for your really great presentations. Now, when I was listening to the first two before Francis Sani presented, I'd asked the question about the role of social innovation actors, because we know there are quite a few tech hubs around. CC Hub might be one of the largest, but it's quite a vibrant scene, even in Nigeria as well. So I was wondering, what was the role of this community in this triple helix framework? That was one. Then I was also thinking about, the requirements. So in the early presentations, there was Dr. Galandanchi and Dr. Debisi. There was quite a lot of conversation about how universities can actually get into this. But that's aside from the sort of pedagogical issues, there is a whole lot of mentoring and coaching that's required to turn the students into the entrepreneurs and innovators that we want. How do we do that? It's certainly more than lectures. So we're going to need environments. We're going to need sort of training. We're going to need platforms, and then within the context of our Africa Connect 3 project, I'd also that's another question. For some reason, I can't see the Q&A, so I'm going to have to remember this, bring it from memory. But I was saying that we had proposed training infrastructure. So we're building all kinds of infrastructure in Wakren, to support R&E and support RENs. Some of this is your typical learning infrastructure, but we had identified from some previous projects that one way to speed up innovation was to have people engage in these hackathons, like what you sort of see with the likes of CC Hub. Is it possible to consider a training corps? Because I can see that most universities, they're doing well, but they cannot do this on their own. Is it possible to consider a training cooperation amongst Nigerian institutions, for instance, possibly with the support of NITA, OIE, and the likes of CC Hub and any other organizations that are interested, to get this sort of framework where we could say the university is trained, but they have a, say, online cloud-based project environment that can simulate these entrepreneurship activities that we want. We're talking here, talk about lack of IP. The reason these startups don't know about that is because they have not been trained. And this is an area where the university can be strong in. And then when you think about the numbers, look at the great work that CC Hub is doing. Imagine if we had even a subset of that on our campuses. Because what I see now is that the students come out of the campuses and they go to the likes of CC Hub. What we need is a reversal of that trend. How do we get there? What role does the REN have to play? How can WACREN support you? Of course, it will take you, we would need you to drive it, but we have technologies and other kinds of capacities and partners that we can bring to bear. So I'd like to see some outcome that we can support here.
You said quite a bit there, Omar, both terms of commentary and questions. So if I can just distill it based on what you did put in the chats, I think what you did say was within its African-Connect 3 project, WACREN has proposed training infrastructure that includes a platform for the execution and administration of hackathons for experimentation, a digital conferencing service, and a repository for multimedia training material. And then you added to that, can some universities in Nigeria form a training cooperation, perhaps with NITDA, OIIE, support to collaborate on such cloud-based infrastructure to offer opportunities for mentoring and coaching that is needed and test before invest services for entrepreneurs. So I don't know if that helps to encapsulate everything you've just said.
It does. And by test before invest, in case that's not clear, we're talking about the relationship with the industry. So how do you build that relationship? So on one hand, we need the likes of what Dr. Mustafa was referring to, those partnerships, the framework. So that's on the, so that drives the policy. They actually sort of have stakeholder engagement in there as well. But what's going to underpin all of that? What's going to produce those people? How's the university and the REN going to contribute directly and permanently to that? That's what I really like this panelists to discuss.
Okay. I don't know if one wanted to pick that one.
Sorry, Dr. Sunday, do you want to speak?
Yes, I'm waiting for you.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was a very good one. A very good one from, I think, Oweya or something like that. And I think, just like Prof said, it's becoming clearer to all of us that if we must help the youth out of this unemployment shackles that the government does not have solution to, and even the private sector themselves too cannot employ all the available youth who do not have jobs, we must collaborate to ensure the fact that right away from inside the university, we change the things we're doing. I will just, address it in this way, what University of Lagos is doing presently. Number one, like I mentioned the other time, we built the consciousness now in the mind of our professors and faculty members that there are no jobs anywhere. We turn out about 18,000 students every year. What is the percentage of these students that will want to leave the university with their own job? So it is my responsibility in the Entrepreneurship and Skill Development Center now to register companies of my students free of all fees. For every student that I've moved through my incubation center, and I have seen that has brought on board a very, very, good output. And we started doing that. In fact, last year, 2020, we patented 11 business ideas for our students free of charge. Why we're doing this, and it will shock you, I could recall in my last meeting with a colleague from South Africa who was saying that, oh, what is the university interest in this? Do we take 50% of this? We say no. University of Lagos is only just interested in 5% of that. And it's not making our students to come forward. Why we're doing that is that, look here, if we turn out 15,000 students every year into the economy, let 5% of them be able to go outside there with a company of their own. And we started that. And we're making progress with that. Unfortunately, if not for the pandemic, we'll have made significant progress with it in year 2024. We did what we call a talent, a kind of a talent connect, where we're looking at everybody that has whether high city. We are not narrowing everything down to techpreneurship. Everypreneurship, that's what we call it. If you're doing any other thing that cannot even be enabled with technology, come forward. We can link you with a guy who understands how technology can drive it, bring you guys together. If you can work together, can you form a company and we begin to drive it and we raise mentors. So we've gone ahead now again to develop a very innovative platform where we're bringing a lot of mentors together, where we call it again, the mentor platform, where somebody like Owen now, where we make an overture to you, we get a corner for you. You can pick 10 students that are doing things that you like and you begin to mentor them for us. So they meet you at your own, probably you want to feed 4 to 6 for them every Saturday. You can meet them on that platform. We call it our EDIC platform. You can meet the student and begin to help us to mentor them. Because just like the last speaker said, we must now begin to connect with what the like of CCOB is doing outside there, because we have them here. I have 57,000 students, and I'm supposed to ensure that every one of them is knowledgeable in entrepreneurship and innovation. It's not just about teaching them in the classroom. I have a hub that will only take barely just 100 students. They have to book before they can come in, and it is only those people that are bringing on board fantastic ideas most of the time we welcome into our incubation hub. Yeah, BOI saw what we're doing now. BOI is building another hub for me that can take another like 150 students. I have a lot of venture capitalists now and angel investors talking to me so that they can begin to pick up, some of the innovation coming from my students. You see, there was one with Abbas, it just came up from us, which, we launched about 2 or 3 weeks ago, if you see that in the news. So that is what we're doing here from University of Lagos now. And we know for sure, I have a big problem now, which is a good problem for me. Having activated the mind of the students, everybody now wants to come to the hub. I don't have a space for them. I can get connected to CC Hub. We can, begin to do our hackathon projects for them. We want what to be doing, quarterly, so that I get up to that can pick up some of the beautiful ideas that can come out of them. So I agree. This is some of the things. Well, Tetfon was with me 2 months ago in December, and Tetfon said, our university, we have to take this across the entire university in Nigeria. And I like what Prof said the other time. It's not about now trying to say that you are teaching students to be carpentry, you're teaching students to be hairdresser. We don't do we don't do that here. That's not the skill development that we're talking about. We're talking about building the skills of the fourth industrial generation. We are not saying that every student will have to go the way of technology. That's not what we're saying. But if you choose to do the hairdressing, how can you do it in such a way that at the comfort of my house, I can have an application that can connect me even to your hairdressing salon, that can give me options, whether to come or you want to come. All at times, you can even say, okay, there's no need for me to come. This your hair, that you could do it in this way. And we can chat, and I can choose whether to come or not to come. And at the end of the day, it's still same hairdressing salon that you have gotten that in a unique and in a very fantastic way that can give comfort to the customer and give value to whatever you're doing. So all of these things we try to do in the university system, and like in Unilag, like I've said, we're now open to a lot of partnership. Again, we just finished a particular product we call Tech Education with 390 Lab. So all of this we are open to. So we want to beckon to everyone. NIDA is working with us in a way, and I think they're quite comfortable with one of the things we've done in this place. And we beckon to everyone for us to connect together. If we can get the student busy, we saw what happened via the ENSA situation. It is because they were idle. In the university system too, if they are unnecessarily idle, if it is only the classroom teaching, forget it. You will not get their attention. But when you get them occupied in the incubation center doing things and meeting the mentors, you can see that we will be able to deliver the nation out of the crisis of unemployment, and the youth will be useful for themselves.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Debisi, for that. I don't know if Dr. Zarifa has any contribution to that as well. What is becoming very obvious to me is that there is a need for some structured coordination and collaboration with all the stakeholders in this space, because it does seem like a lot is going on, and I think more collaboration is really required. So what would you say to that, Dr. Zarifa?
Thank you, Mr. Owen. Yes, definitely we need more collaboration, because each stakeholder cannot do everything on its own. The universities cannot, they need the policies that the government will make even the curriculum. If we want to have a highly digital skilled Nigerians, then it's not even from the university we need to start looking at. We need to start looking at from basic education. We know that it is in the policy, is it national education policy or something, that ICT needs to be part of the curriculum, but is it being implemented? How are we measuring what we have in the policies? How are we measuring the implementation of the policies in terms of digital skills and literacy? Because that is what we need to focus on. And for that, we need collaborations, both the private sector, the academia, and government. Government on its part can draft the policies, develop policies or regulations or acts, but the government only cannot drive such policies or the laws. It needs the buy-in of all the stakeholders of the ecosystem. And that's why such program as yours is very critical, because we get to understand what we are all doing in our own parts and see further areas of collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zarifa. I certainly will sort of be approaching your unit in NIDA as an NREN to see how some of what has just been discussed can be enacted on. I see a lot of possibilities for cooperating to do many activities that could stimulate and engender some of those skill sets that are required in our youth while they're still at university, and maybe for our girls who sometimes, particularly when it comes to STEM, get sidelined. So from an Eko-Konnect perspective, an NREM perspective, as Dr. Professor Galadanchi had just talked about, I would want to bring that whole face of an NREN to NIDA and see how we can we can collaborate in those areas. And I think that would extend more to a regional scenario as well, where regional REN such as WACREN do have some access to funding and have initiatives that could help with innovation and entrepreneurship. So I think we all need to be talking to one another, collaborating with the centers of excellence that are being run by Dr. Sunday. The CC hubs have already got a very good model, and government. I think we all just need to find a way of working together, and like Dr. Zarifa said, based around some clearly defined policies that could allow us to collaborate together. Again, time has been not been our friend, and we've actually come to the end of this session. So I'd like to maybe thank these panelists, Dr. Sunday Adebisi, Professor Bashir Galadanchi, Dr. Zarifa Mustafa, and Francis Sani. Thank you for your time and for your very insightful presentations. And also thank all the attendees of this session. I hope it's been very useful, and I hope we can take this information and move forward in terms of digital transformation that is really necessary in this current climate. So thank you very much, and I wish you all a wonderful day ahead. And I'm inviting you all to the sessions tomorrow. There'll actually be a session specifically for women, and so I'd like to invite the ladies here to join that session, and I'm sure some of the men will be invited and allowed to join as well. So thank you very much, and have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you for everyone.